Hey cuties, it's me. I'm uh I'm gonna do this one without the avatar. So what we're talking about tonight is our shiny new process. We're gonna do a noise painting, and this is a pretty involved noise painting. I had a heck of a day today. I felt like, you know, the thing they keep telling me is that they'll watch my quick draw videos and they'll go through and they'll be like, "Yeah, you're just scribbling," and I am just scribbling for those because when you're talking about InGen technologies, mainly Stable Diffusion, but any of the others that will take an image, um, the image isn't designed to be the final output. You can um, you can create noise paintings, which is a whole new concept that a lot of traditional artists just don't understand yet. And you can create other things. You can photo bash. Um, and you can get a really nice result out of the machine. So when you're designing for a machine, you're not necessarily drawing something that anyone would consider good art for the human because the art doesn't happen on the input side. It does a little bit. Like, we're going to go through some techniques on how to use noise, and in this case, lines without anti aliasing turned on, to generate some really nice textured art and effects. We're also going to go through using different models, and we're going to harken back to a really old pulpy art style. We're going to work with Gil Elfkin, but we're also going to use a secondary model to fill in some of the gaps and really sort of give it a more modern look that also sort of at the same time also stays pulpy, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do here is start with a photo of Marilyn Monroe. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and start moving her around and getting her down to the right size so she fits in a square, because squares are the easiest to render with Stable Diffusion. And what we're going to do from there is just sort of get her into the right spot. We're going to lock her down, and then we're going to start sketching away on a new layer. I'm using Fireworks CS6 because that's the last version of any Adobe product without AI enhanced brushes, and that is super important. You don't want the smooth anti-aliased brushes. Um, Ideally, I think either Fireworks CS6 or maybe, I don't know, like either Paint or Paint.net. I would say probably Paint.net would be better, um, because it'll give you the same kind of raw, sort of really pointy, noisy sort of strokes that we're getting here with our pencil. And it's going to do that, and it's going to use those spaces between the line to generate texture, and that's going to be really important at the first couple of stages of the process. And there we go. So anyway, we're not aiming for a final portrait of Marilyn Monroe, but what I was thinking is that Marilyn Monroe is sort of an archetypal beauty, you know, like the placement of her features and just sort of the cinematography in her positioning. Um, it's really nice most of the time, and so that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna sort of trace over her, and it's gonna look really weird. But by the time we're done, we're gonna have something that's actually pretty cool. And I hope you stick around with me while we do this, because it's a fun exercise. I think to date, this is probably my most involved noise painting yet. And I wanted to keep it sort of easy and accessible no matter what your skill level is, because that way you can sort of, I don't know, either follow along or do something similar And I really feel like this is kind of a new technique. I found somebody on Twitter today that was doing something similar. I'd really like to see how they do it. What they're using is just sort of raw textured brush strokes, which is interesting, and it has a really different effect, even though it makes the machine do something very similar. So what I'm thinking there is I'm going to follow them and sort of see if I could suck their brain a little, you know? Anyway, other than that, life is pretty good. I feel like, in general, when it comes to working with AIs, that, even something as basic as this would be well beyond what most people understand about AIs. So anyway, the way diffusion models work, you start off with something, and that image can be a reference that the machine pulls up, or several references that meet a specific criteria. Think of a prompt like a query, or a search, inside a system where they pull up references, and then there's a number of algorithms that sort of bring it all together. Now, when you're making art with AIs, you can start there, but as an artist and somebody who is a self-hating control freak about their art, I like to give the machine some leeway, but not a ton of leeway. I like to create my own compositions, essentially from scratch, even when we're talking about using AIs to sort of enhance the process. And yeah. So I don't know. I think there are people out there who would probably take issue with the fact that I'm doing it this way and still calling it AI art because it's not pure ImGen. But I think this is probably either a very common use case, or I think it's the better use case for these tools for sure, especially with Stable Diffusion. Stable Diffusion is just magical once you get a handle on it. If you're just getting started, I would say the best possible thing you can do with Stable Diffusion is first study people's prompts and understand how they're written. Go through, there's a million websites on how to do different kinds of things. And then, start constructing them yourself. It doesn't take a lot. I feel like if you can explain what's going on in any composition, you can use Stable Diffusion. Stable Diffusion gets advanced when you start layering your models like we're going to do here. But the results really sort of speak for themselves. Anyway, the reason for the line and hatching patterns that we're looking at here is they break the art style. So what I'm going to do in this particular exercise is call up a very specific art style. We're going to be working with, what's his name? I can never remember his name. It's Gil Elfgren. I like Gil a lot. So I started calling up his art style because, for one thing, he's a pinup artist, and he's been dead since the 1960s. And he'd be like 140 today. He was big in like the 40s and 50s, and he did a lot of sort of just really goofy, risque sort of art. Just for a comparison, think of like Rolf Armstrong sort of has a similar art style. But Rolf used to do these. Rolf also did pinups, but Rolf did a lot of sort of portraits. A lot of heads and shoulders type stuff. And his work is a lot more serious. Gil's art style is very similar. It's a little more cartoony, ever so slightly, but you'd really have to look to see it. And the thing that Gil does that's really fun with his compositions is they're all so goofy. Like, I'm sure you've seen that one piece of like the cute brunette with the short hair, and she's running around in her underwear and the dog's pulling her skirt off or something. That's the guy. And he's done a million others. And it's such a different art style that I feel like even if you only partially incorporate it, everything you do with an art style like that is very distinctive. The only thing I don't like about it is sort of the dated way that he drew makeup, and sort of the simplistic way that lips were drawn is sort of like two lines. But we're going to sort of address all of that. And we're going to get there by switching models back and forth. So here you can see that I've started to add color. These are color suggestions, and we're blurring it out, and we're going to sort of blend them together. We're going to do a bunch of colors. If we were trying for like a faithful portrait of Marilyn Monroe, we would do this a little differently. The way we would do that probably would be using GIMP and one of the photo filters there. Probably like some kind of Kuara filter and some noise generators. And that would give us something that still gave us the noise, but was more faithful to the actual look of the original. Here we don't actually care what the original looks like so much as you've got all your lines about where they're supposed to be. You've got your eyes and your lips in about the right place. You've got your hair there. Now, also when you're using noise paintings, another thing to remember is as you reduce the noise, your hair is going to get very short and go away eventually. So it's less of a problem with men than it is with women. But as we go through this, we're probably going to have some kind of step in here towards the end where we're just going to draw some very basic hair on her. And then we're going to, and then from there, what we're going to do is we're going to refine that, but it's going to be really, really, really close to the end. So the colors we've got here are sort of suggestions. Right now, I'm thinking it's going to be a sort of pinkish purple, maybe reddish, maybe orangish sort of background. We're going to blend it all together. We're probably, as the noise goes down, we're probably also going to remove the background altogether and just sort of go to Pixup A and pick out something that sort of gets us there, which will then run through the machine and cut down a little more. It's a process. And it's fun. I think one thing that you'll find is about InGen, when you try it like this, using this particular type of technique, I think what you're going to find is that it's super satisfying. This is, you can't really see it right now, but this is more art than I could do in 2 weeks. And here I sped up the film a little bit, but this should take, I don't know, maybe an hour, maybe a little less than an hour. Also pay attention to this prompt. There we go. And now we're going to generate a concept. That's too high. That's not what we want. That's a little better, even though that's not the image we want. Now, notice about that picture is the amount of texture. This too. Don't worry about the eyes. The eyes are going to be nightmarish when you first start. They're not going to look right until we're going to do probably 2 or 3 levels of correction before the eyes really look right. But we'll get there. Some of these are going to be really cool. Now what I'm doing at the bottom there with those dials is I'm putting the seed in, and I'm increasing or reducing the amount of noise that gets that gets taken out of the image. And what that translates into is essentially how hard the computer works to completely redraw. So we don't want it to like draw a totally new picture. Instead, what we want it to do is draw something where the framing is about similar to our composition, where we're not losing a lot of fundamental information, but also sort of gaining an interesting texture. I like that one. Look at that. Pretty. That one's cute too. Alright, so now we turn it up just a touch and we hit generate again. It's sort of fun to watch these images sort of fill out and just sort of come to life in front of your eyes. These are new compositions, by the way. When you work with Stable Diffusion using this technique, you're still sampling in the sort of the same way that you would if you were just doing straight prompt. But the way the noise moves around is going to get you some stuff that is crazy, wild, that has never existed in any combination before. Oh, I love that. Look at that. Okay, let's do that last one, I think, maybe. That one's cute too. Yeah, but that's the one. Alright, let's move. Make sure we got our seeds in place. And now we make some magic happen. Ooh, or look at that one. A couple of these are really weird. Alright. Especially that one. I might save that one and see what happened. Okay, so now we're making the magic happen. And we're gonna see what variations we can get. I'm not aiming for a terribly exciting piece with this one. I'm really just hoping for something, honestly, that's kind of boring. But in the end, I'd like to see something just a little original. So we'll get there. Look at those. Alrighty. Yeah, so that one does make more sense. We're gonna have to get rid of that lump though. I'm gonna wait until it's done with this batch and we're gonna go back into Fireworks and see what we can get. Also, don't be disheartened when you see weird signatures come up. Most of them are totally random, and I did a study on this a couple of weeks ago. If you break the system and prompt in a signature, which you can do. It'll be illegible, but it could definitely be done. Um, it'll actually break the system and give you two signatures on the page, which include the signature for the reference. If you're not doing that, when you see a signature on an image like this, what you're looking at is a totally new drawing by the computer. It happens because of the way that noise gets taken out, and because, well, art has signatures on it, and the computer doesn't know how to read. Signatures that actually do come from the art are usually extremely legible, and you can tell. You can also make the system generate completely different signatures, like we did here. But anyway, that's not important. What is important is saving and opening it up again. And now we're going to do some just really quick cutting work. Oh, you know what? Let's try it and see what happens. No, it's not going to work. Stop it. Okay, we will do some really quick... we will do some really quick painting work. And we will get this painted over really quick. What I'm hoping for is... yeah, that's about right. We're also going to try to cut the neck down because back in the day, they used to draw women with really, really thick necks. We're going to have to adjust that probably a couple of times through this process. And just to make sure... Alright, so now she's sitting there with her shoulder. Still doesn't look quite right, but you gotta remember we are gonna move this around. And I think the next thing I'm gonna work on here is the background. Let's see if we can add some noise to the background and at least get something interesting for now. Look at me working at double speed. And now what I'm doing is sort of duplicating my layer, so we have twice as much noise. 50% off all noise at the gap. And this is line noise, so it's twice as intricate as the static, and it makes the system do weird stuff. So now what I'm going to do is going to give it some guidelines for basic shading. This might not look like much to you and me, but to the computer this is going to signal sort of where we want things. And save it. All right, let's roll. See what happens. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. Gotta get on the first index. So this gives us kind of a poppy sort of textured background, which is exactly what we wanted. It's not giving me the body shading I hoped for, but sometimes that doesn't come in until like you start messing with the actual hair. And I have a feeling that that's probably what's going to happen this time. We up our noise. That's going to make things smoother. Computer's going to get just a touch more creative. Hopefully not a lot. Remember, we're not married to any of these faces until we hit that final one. They're all so pristine and classic. Also here, at least for now, we're not using any negative prompts. Generally, I've got a ton of negative prompts. So now we're going to select one. And we're going to put her in. And we like stuff. We don't like her face, but we like the basic body. And we like the noise background. So what we're going to do is just sort of try to work with that. And now we're going to draw some hair. What we've done here, there's sort of a quick edit that you missed. We drew the hair and we switched our models. And what we're going to do now is try to get the lips and eyes to work properly. This is what layering models means. So when you do layer a model, remember we're going to put it back the old way, which is going to try to change it back to the way it was. So what we want to do is pick an image with this model that has just enough denoising in it to overdo it, if that makes sense. So we want like the eyes, and the eyes a little bigger, and the lips just a little poutier. Then we know they're actually going to be in the final product. Also, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Nobody draws lips better than Asian artists, especially anime. Like high-end anime and manga, the way people draw lips, they're just beautiful. So I'm hoping that we can sort of capture that aesthetically. And I think that's the one we want. And let's see if we can switch back and get ourselves just a little bit of distance. Not much. Just enough to change her to what she should be. God, her eyes are going to be messed up, but that's fine. Her eyelashes are going to be primo. And go. Any day now. Go, go, go. And go. I'll probably edit this down too if it takes much longer. Okay, never mind. Alright, and as you can see, we sort of maintain. Yeah, there we go. See what that does? So we're taking the same prompt, and what we're doing is moving that prompt stylistically between images that have different styles, or between models rather, or checkpoints, whatever you want to call them, that have different styles associated with them. They're trained on different things. And there you go. Now we're going to take that, and we are going to upload her to Face Restorer. This is the ARC Face Restorer, the one from Tencent. And we're going to see if, maybe, let's try again. Yeah, okay. I think what we need to do is trick the face restore. Here's how you do it. What we're going to do is we're going to take that eye color, we're going to sample it. And we're going to change our brush, we're going to put a layer in, and we're just going to color ever so slightly into that. You with me? Opacity. There we go. And that's really close, I think. A little more. A little more. A little more. Perfecto. Alright, and now we should have something that'll fool the machine. Bingo, bingo. If we only have to do this once, I will be a very happy woman. There we go. See those beautiful green eyes? Don't worry, we only need one of them. There we go. So now we're going to cut that out. And we are going to paste that in. Try to match her up. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That is schmigsy. Alright. But now we have a problem that it is too big. So we're going to try to line her up and scale her down. And there we go. I felt like the Face Restore, the 10-cent one, I felt like it had some issues. It tried to make our really delicious lips less delicious. So we left those pretty much as is. And now we're just going to adjust the eyes, which are at different angles because it's sort of an off angle even now. And we're going to turn that down because we want to keep it about the same way. All we really want to do, because these eyes are super uncanny, is just have the system paint over them. Just a touch. I feel like the eyes from the 10-cent Face Restore are really good if you are doing like photographs, which is what it's designed for. But today, we are not doing photographs. We are doing paintings. And the standard for eyes in paintings to look right is just a little bit different. Now what we're going to do is in paint, and we're going to cover up that random noise over there. It's going to be easy. And as you can see, our neck is still too wide, so we're going to have to go in and edit that as well. Alright, so let's adjust the noise up. And save that image. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to let us do this within painting. I'm skeptical. Yeah. Alright, so now we need a shadow. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the 10-cent human matting filter, and we're going to get a copy of our girl, and we're going to drop her in 2 layers onto the art. Meanwhile, we're going to go to Pixabay, and we're going to see if we can find a similar background to the one we were looking at. Does not matter what color it is. Perfect, look at that. And it's exactly the right size. Bus? I swear I'm human. As far as you know. Alright. And now we mess with the color of it. We're going to blur it out. Take the saturation down and the lighting. And now we're going to mess with the blur until we get something that just sort of looks a little better. There we go. Look at that. Oh, that's perfect. Wow. Close to perfect. And it's still noisy enough to get us through the rest of the exercise. Now we save, and we push back to Stable Diffusion. And the other thing we missed was now I've added lines to the hair, which should give us our final product, more or less. Give it a minute. And there we go. Our final painting. Ain't she pretty? Well, I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough. I just wanted to tell you that if you're making art, no matter what kind of art you're making, keep creating, keep creative, and I love you, babies. I'll see you later. I'll see you next time, and all that good stuff. Have a good one. Bye.